All right, hopefully all of you on the live stream can hear me as well. If you can't, please comment and we'll have somebody take a look at that. Welcome to Atheists United Live. We are here on the fourth Sunday of every month and have been since 1982, offering speaker programs and educational programs for our community. Today we have an exciting speaker. Before we get to him, I want to quickly make some announcements. We have a new program we launched this year, which has been incredibly successful, and I really want you all to check out if you haven't seen it before. It's called Smart Recovery. It's a secular addiction recovery program. They're a national organization, but the LA chapter has become an official partner of us. And their last few meetings, through the pandemic, they struggled to get more than 2 or 3 people in attendance. And then when they came back in person, they were struggling to get attendance. Well, we found out the problem was 6 o'clock events. In LA, nobody can make it to a 6 o'clock event, but you move that event to 7, suddenly we have 20 people in meeting. And that group has been absolutely thriving. We're now fundraising to try to expand that program. So if any of you are interested in participating, if you or a loved one needs addiction recovery and that might be of value to you, please check it out. You can go to smartrecoveryla.org or you can go to atheistunited.org to learn more. Or if you'd like to make a donation to that program, we really want to expand it in LA. There's no need that the only addiction recovery programs have to have religious baggage attached to them. 12-step programs and others aren't only non-scientific, they often have religious baggage. We're going to work on the tech here while I speak. Another amazing program announcement I want to tell you about. We have a youth group we launched this year, Evolve Youth Group. Donovan back here is one of the leaders of that. We went on a hike to the Hollywood sign. I tricked him, told him it was only going to be a nice, easy 3-mile hike. If you've ever hiked to the Hollywood sign, it is up and down and 1,500 feet of elevation. And though he's not sore, I am today. And I really encourage you, if you know anyone that is a teenager that might be interested in that program, to please help us spread the word. It's new, we're trying to get the word out. And we're looking at a huge fall. We're gonna have a ton of programs. Every month we do some type of social, and if we get enough youth, we're gonna start doing weekly meetings and we can engage some more relevant topics to them. Everything from how to communicate and think about ethics with the internet these days to modern sex education, which I know they cringe when they hear that, but it is valuable stuff. Great. All right, we're gonna get going here. I had the speaker bio up. I'll pull that back up. Jeffrey, I've known for a little bit now. Jeffrey is one of our members. It is so exciting when we can have one of our members speak. We do a lot of cool stuff in our community, and I think we don't always highlight it enough. So this is a thrilling moment. What will also come up at the end of this is a project he's working on right now, which is thrilling, and I can't wait for you to hear more about. But let me just get this started and we'll get moving. So Jeffrey Jackson began his career in the world of advertising, where he founded his own agency and went on to write and direct award-winning commercials and video content, and has worked for nationally known clients such as Sony, Novartis, and Western Union. He wrote, directed, and starred in an acclaimed short film, Our First Fight, a romantic comedy which toured film festivals around the world. His feature-length screenplay, White Collared, black comedy set in corporate America, won Best Screenplay at the Santa Barbara Film Festival and was acquired by Sundance-winning film producer Filbert Steps. Playwright as well. His first works for the stage was creating the book and lyrics for a faithful musical adaptation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which was produced off-Broadway and starred Tony nominee Hunter Foster. Associated Press said amazing things about it, and I'm gonna jump to getting you on stage right now. Okay, if you can please help me in welcoming Jeffrey Jackson.
Thank you very much. Is my mic on? There we go. Hello, everyone watching on the internet. It's great to be here. As Evan said, I am, in addition to all those things, I'm a member. You may not recognize me because I joined right before COVID, good timing. So it's great to be back here in person. I hope to be back a lot more just as a member. I'm here today to talk to you about how atheism intersects with something I know a little bit about, and that's the movies. Elton John. I always like to pause after that because you're like going, how does Elton John, what is he? I mean, he's been in 1 or 2 movies, but that's not why I'm starting with him. bear with me. In 1979, Elton John performed a series of concerts in the former Soviet Union behind the Iron Curtain. He was not the first pop star to do this, but he was by far the biggest at that time. After, if not necessarily in the Soviet Union, they would perform in West Berlin, and they'd actually like broadcast the concerts over the wall. And eventually this culminated in Billy Joel's 1988 10-city tour within the Soviet Union. The very next year, in 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. Let's move a little closer to home. In 2012, the ABC hit TV series Modern Family premiered, and it featured a loving gay couple, committed, living in a civil union, raising their adopted daughter. 6 years later, during the run of the show, gay marriage became the law of the land. Now, am I suggesting that these little bits of pop culture created all this seismic change? No. However, way smarter people than me have written extensively about the causal relationship between pop culture and seismic social change, and it's irrefutable. I think, can't the same thing be done for atheism? Maybe, but it sure as hell hasn't started yet. As a matter of fact, we're not even at square one. We're at like square -50. And let me explain what I mean. The Fox TV show House, starring Hugh Laurie, in this, his character, Gregory House, is a brilliant diagnostician. He's also a very outspoken atheist, for those of you who watched it. But he's also a narcissist, a curmudgeon. He abuses pain medication, and he's generally a horrible person. For 8 seasons. In the Netflix hit series Dead to Me, Christina Applegate, her character is actually an atheist. They don't put it front and center, but they do have her voice of atheist opinions now and again. She's also an alcoholic with anger management issues. A few years ago, I was having a conversation about this with a friend, and he said, "Oh, you're an atheist. You need to watch this movie called The Sunset Limited." I said, okay, I'll check it out because it's for atheists. So it was available on demand. So I demanded it. And so it stars Tommy Lee at the top of the movie, in front of a New York City subway train. Sam Jackson plays a Christian who rescues him, and they spend the rest of the movie debating the existence of God. And the atheist, you can tell, because he's freaking miserable. I don't know about you, but I'm detecting a pattern here. Let's take a look at all these big screen atheists. We have despondent and suicidal, a hot mess, and an angry asshole. Yeah, okay. It seems that in movies and TV, atheist has become shorthand for a seriously screwed up person. And, you know, being a screenwriter, I know a little bit about the way it's not done maliciously, I don't think. It's just the definition of atheists that society has defaulted to. It's the same reason why 30 years ago, every gay character was either a hairdresser or a florist. It's a stereotype. Stereotypes are awful, but they're real time savers, aren't they? But you may say, wait a minute, it's not all bad for atheists in the movies. What about The Ledge. I don't know if those of you have seen The Ledge. It was touted by its writer-director, Matthew Chapman, an atheist, as the first pro-atheist feature film ever to be released in America. Wow, that's pretty awesome, right? Well, let's take a look at The Ledge. And just, there's going to be spoilers. But since it only got 14% on Rotten Tomatoes, it's kind of spoiled all by itself. So in The Ledge, the lovely Liv Tyler is married to Patrick Wilson, who plays a fundamentalist Christian. And into their life comes Gavin, played by Charlie Hunnam. He is an atheist. He's the atheist hero that Chapman promised us. So shortly after, and Gavin's also, because he's an atheist, he's horribly screwed up and in mourning for his dead child and lost wife. Because he can't really be happy and have it together and be an atheist. We all know that, right? So shortly after meeting this couple, Gavin, because he's an atheist and because he realizes that Patrick Wilson is a rabid, fanatical Christian, he does the only ethical thing left to him, which is to sleep with his wife. Because that's what atheists do. Lock up your daughters and wives. We're coming for you. So, and this is from an atheist writer-director, mind you. Apparently, Matthew Chapman has bought into the same stereotype. He feels this is how atheists need to be depicted. So during the course of the story, Patrick Wilson finds out about their affair. And being a Christian, he turns to the Old Testament, looks up the remedy for adultery, and decides that both of them need to die, and he reaches for his gun because, all Christians have those and will use them, apparently, according to this movie. But instead of killing them, he offers Gavin a compromise. If Gavin will go to the ledge of a tall building and throw himself off, he will refrain from killing his lover, Liv Tyler, who also happens to be his wife. It's a feel-good movie. Bring the kids. Thankfully, it wasn't seen by a lot of people. It was not well received. And all I want to say to writer-director Matthew Chapman, if he's listening, is thanks, but no thanks. You're not helping, Matthew Chapman. I'll just wait a second for that to pass out. So Hollywood, when not only is Hollywood repeatedly depicting atheists in this bad light, despite the fact that Hollywood's always accused of undermining religious values, right? That's one of the themes of the right. Hollywood is, against Christianity and out to get it. I don't know, because from where I sit, most Hollywood movies are pretty pro-God. Let me repeat that. Most Hollywood movies support and promote a belief in God. Let's start with the heart. Because if Satan and hell and demons exist, right, then that only follows that God must too. And we know that every year there are scores and scores of horror movies released and have been and will continue to be with pretty much the same point of view. Indirectly supporting a belief in the supernatural, which translates to a belief in God. But you might say, well, what about, surely mainstream movies don't promote a belief in God, do they? Oh, well, yeah, I guess they kind of do. The afterlife, ghosts, angels, sometimes even the big guy himself makes an appearance. There are literally thousands of movies that all support a belief in God. And when Hollywood isn't making these subtle God messages, they're just making straight up Bible movies and have been. And yet some of these, if you look, some of them are pretty old. They go back to Samson, Delilah, and Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments in 1929. But some of these are very recent. Noah, Exodus. It's not going to stop. So, and if Hollywood isn't contributing enough to the problem, we've got this new onslaught of films from the religious community themselves. Pure Flix, a company based in Scottsdale, Arizona, has kind of created this mini major film studio service. And if you go to their website, they will tell you all about their movie ministry. And I think that's a small potato. To date, Pure Flix has produced or co-produced 229 feature films. They're on God's Not Dead 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I hear 5 is in the works. So what do? Obviously, when it comes to the movies, the deck is really stacked against atheists. Well, let's just put it for a minute, and let me tell you a little bit about my own journey to atheism. It's like witnessing. It's like witnessing. You don't got a tambourine? So I was raised a Christian, like maybe some of you were. Not a rabid evangelical family. It's just pretty much your garden variety American Protestant, very low key. And I took it pretty seriously into my 20s. When I was Donovan's age there, you would have caught me in church right now instead of at something like this. And my faith didn't exploded in one moment. There was no abuse or trauma or life-changing element. It just kind of eroded over a couple of years. I started getting a little older, started learning a little bit too much about the world and how it worked to support those beliefs anymore. But during that time that I was kind of wishy-washy about it, the one thing that really tipped me over the edge is I was working a day job as a graphic designer, and I worked every day alongside this really nice guy by the name of Bob. That's him there with his little baby Ben. Ben's now a grown man. And when you work right next to someone every day, you talk about a lot of stuff. And we hit it off really well. We loved the same bands. We loved the same movies and TV shows. We got the same jokes. But we never really talked about religion or faith or anything like that. And one day he just kind of let it slip out that he was an atheist. I don't even remember how it came up. He just said, "Oh, no, I don't believe in God," and that was it. He didn't offer some long-winded argument. He didn't try and convince me. That's all it was. But it was enough, because that was the first time I really got to know an atheist and saw that he wasn't a horrible, screwed up person. He was actually a pretty cool guy with a beautiful young family who I liked and who had his life together. And that kind of gave me permission to try on a pair of atheist lenses and look at life through that. And once I did, there was really no turning back. So let's get back to my main theme. As soon as this plane, so we in a flight path? Wow. Okay. I could have flown here. I could avoid all that traffic. So my passion, as Evan alluded to in my generous introduction, is the performing arts. Movies, theater, television. I was born and raised in the New York area, so I got involved with theater first. I had 2 plays published and produced in New York City. They're both in licensing and performed around the world. I actually just had to pull the license from one of them in Russia a few weeks ago in protest over Ukraine. My screenplays have been bought by established producers. I made an award-winning short film. I was an assignment writer for Disney Animation for a while. Bottom line is, I know how to write a good movie. I know how to make a good movie. So it occurred to me, after consuming all that stuff about how atheists are horribly produced and having that awakening, that I need to make my own atheism movie. The right kind. The kind that combined the experiences that led me to that point. The kind that drew upon the examples of how rock and roll and television affected social change, avoiding the negative example of all the horrible depictions of atheists that I saw on television and movies, and bringing in the experience of a positive atheist role model like I had working alongside my buddy Bob. I wanted to combine all this in a story that represented atheism the way it needed to be. I felt it needed to be done. But what? For years, I kicked around different ideas. I didn't want it to be some angry screed like The Ledge, because I know that just turns people off. And finally, when I turned not outward, but inward, I started thinking a lot about an episode from my own life. What is what they say, right? Write what you know. Years ago, long after I became an atheist, I became engaged to a girl from a Catholic family. And at that point in my life, I was pretty passive about my atheism. I was convinced there was no questioning anymore, but I was had kind of a live and let live attitude about it. And she was from a very Catholic family. Do you remember that scene in The Godfather 3 where Michael Corleone gets the medal from the Pope? Yeah, her dad got one of those. No lie. So there was no way this was going to be a secular ceremony. It was going to be Catholic. And I wanted to make her happy. I wanted to make her family happy. They were nice people. So I did it under one condition. I said, I'll do it. I said, but I'm just not going to lie. I won't stand up there and say I believe something I don't. I won't say I don't believe something I know to be true. And because I was an atheist and she was Catholic, the Catholic Church considered this a mixed marriage, just as if I were a Jew or a Hindu or something. So I had to be interviewed by the priest. So my fiance, you're laughing already, right? Keep in mind how that makes you laugh. My fiance was sweating bullets when I went into this interview. What was I going to say? And the thing is, the guy asked me all sorts of questions. I told him I was, he asked me, oh, you were raised Protestant. I'm like, yeah, I was. That was the truth. I kind of had this don't ask, don't tell strategy. That was the best I could do. But he never asked me, never like, by the way, do you believe in God? If he had, he would have gotten an earful, and I don't know what would have happened. But as it is, I got through it, nothing blew up, and the ill-fated wedding went on. And I say ill-fated because years later we got divorced. I'm now married to I moved to LA, I'm now married to a wonderful woman who's rational and shares our viewpoints. But I always wondered, what if that interview had gone a little different? So I wrote a romantic comedy, an atheist romantic comedy. And in it, it's about a girl, Melissa, who is from a Catholic family. She's in love with and wants to marry her boyfriend, Charlie, who's an atheist. Her mom is a devout Christian, devout Catholic. And so to get through it, they decide they're going to keep Charlie's atheism kind of on the down low until they're assigned a novice priest whose own faith is kind of on shaky ground. And when he interviews Charlie, Charlie ends up inadvertently talking him out of the priesthood. Thank you. And it's called Our Goddamn Wedding. It's fun, it's funny, it's inclusive, it's life-affirming. I intentionally do not beat the audience over the head with atheist messages, although I do manage to slip in a few atheist arguments. It's kind of like a bit of a Trojan horse or stealth bomb, whatever century you prefer your war metaphors from. But I don't set up the religious characters to be idiotic straw men to be beaten down. They're three-dimensional characters that people might even grow to like a little bit. But the film's perspective comes down squarely on the side of atheism. And mostly what I wanted to do through it was to provide the audience with the experience I had, to get to know an atheist, get to like him a little bit, see that he's an okay person with his life together, with his values. And that maybe that would give the audience just a little permission to think about atheism differently. And I think that's all you can hope to accomplish with a movie. I think that would be huge if I could do that. I don't think you're going to ruin anyone's faith. I don't think you're going to change the world. The screenplay, I don't know if anyone knows anything about the film industry. We Screenplay is an organization that the industry uses to rank screenplays so that they can get a feel for if they're good or not and worth their while. They're notoriously tough. It's very hard to get a good ranking from them. They gave it a 90 score out of 100 and said all sorts of nice things in their coverage. The concept is stellar, mixture of strange thematic poignancy and kooky comedy, colorful, memorable characters, touching, unique story of family and faith, polished, thoughtful approach. And the screenplay was a semifinalist in the final draft big break screenplay competition, which if you don't know, there are a million screenplay competitions every year. There's really only about 3 of them that count. That's one of them. The stills that I showed you are from a short film version of it that I've already produced and directed, kind of as a proof of concept, like a 12-minute excerpt of it. And I'm currently crowdfunding to raise money to make the feature. I'm putting a lot of my own money into it. I've raised over $100,000 to date, but I need like over 100,000 more. And so I come to everyone today with an opportunity, because I think all of us together can make a fantastic atheist movie. So I'm here today with a pitch. Hopefully I informed you a little bit about everything that went into this, because I think it's worthwhile for all of us atheists to realize just what problem we're facing in our depiction in the media. But if you can go to our website, the title of the film is Our Goddamn Wedding. The website is ourgoddamnwedding.com. You can donate there. You can watch the short film. Right up there is a little pitch video from me. I think I'm wearing the same jacket. There are great rewards, as there are in a lot of crowdfunding campaigns. You can be in the film. You can be in the credits. There's all sorts of great things. So I just ask everyone here to, if you can help, I'd appreciate it. I know not everyone can. If at the very least, please share it. There's links, a little further scroll down to share it on social media. Like it on, there's an Instagram page, there's a Facebook page. That stuff counts. Like it, share it. And particularly since we're here in LA, if anyone knows anyone in the film industry who might be remotely interested in supporting a project like this, please share it with them. Also, I think in addition to helping our profile as atheists, I think this is a fantastic business opportunity. We know, we watch some of these things, you know, the nuns, N-O-N-E-S, are on the rise. This is an untapped audience, an underserved audience. And yeah, Evan probably can tell you how difficult it is to mobilize people to volunteer and march and things like that, but it's a little lower bar to get people to maybe stream something on Netflix on a Saturday night from their couch. I think it has the power to reach an audience and make a difference. This is a fantastic time to be an independent filmmaker. Because of the nature of streaming platforms, a tiny little independent film can find an audience and break through. That would be unthinkable even 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But it's possible now. Now, can my one little low budget independent film make the kind of change we need? No. But remember at the top of my talk when I said how Elton John was not the first rock star to perform the Soviet Union. He wasn't. The first was Cliff Richard. Anyone remember Cliff Richard? One person. Donovan has no idea who Cliff Richard is, nor should you. Cliff Richard was a minor pop star. He was bigger in England than he was here. He had a hit or two, but he performed in the Soviet Union behind the Iron Curtain a few years before Elton John. Elton John heard about it. I'd like to do that too. And then another followed, and another, and another. So I'm not suggesting that I can be Elton John. I think I can be Cliff Richard. I think we can all be Cliff Richard together. Thank you all very much. Our Goddamn Wedding, that's the name of the film, that's the name of the website. Please check it out. I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
Any questions? Mic round.
Yes.
Have you approached big studios, or that's not the way to do it?
Yes and no. I kind of want to keep control of the film. I don't want the content to get watered down. So there's a danger there. Obviously, if a big studio came and said, yeah, we love this and we're going to throw millions of dollars into making it, I'd have to say yes and take that chance. But I'm not really pursuing that route for that reason. As I constantly network on behalf of the film, sometimes I run into someone recently said, oh, I know someone who's got a deal at Netflix and they're throwing tons of money at rom-coms. I'm like, sure, let's pitch it. But I don't know if that's the way to go. Again, I think, as I said, it's a wonderful time to be an independent filmmaker. And I think there's an opportunity for this to be seen overseas a lot, where we know atheists have a stronger foothold in English-speaking countries in Europe and Australia. And so there's an audience there. I'm working with someone right now who's trying to maybe raise financing through overseas pre-sales. So it's all a possibility. But no, to answer your question, I've not made a big pitch to big studios for that reason.
What about a major movie? What about a major movie star who's a big hit?
I would love that, and that is on my radar. Particularly, there are, when you make an independent film, there are ways to get name talent in your film. Typically, if you have a role where you can say, you know what, 2 days we'll film you, you're in, you're out, and we can give you 50 grand or something like that. So the role of Charlie's father is actually a very colorful comedic role, and I'm thinking of like someone like Penn Jillette would have a good time playing that. A lot of other atheists, but it's difficult to get to A-list people, and so if anyone, by all means, if anyone has a connection to someone, it's one of the main reasons why I keep talking this up through atheist groups, hoping that maybe that's a little tangential connection that'll kick in. Yeah, Fred Armisen is an outspoken atheist. I had a long list of them. You guys probably can name all the same names off the top of the head. Anytime I hear someone like say anything atheist, they go on my potential casting list. But it's difficult to get to people. Agents are great gatekeepers for that sort of thing, and they really don't want their clients approached by people who aren't going to give them tons of money. So we'll see. But it's definitely one of the things I'm going to try and do.
I have a question. Is there a time frame that you have as a projection for the completion of the film, or is it mainly raise the money first and then?
Yeah, it's kind of raised. As soon as we get to the point where we have enough money to go into production, we will. I'm kind of thinking that this year is devoted to raising the money, and next year devoted to producing it. That's just a loose time frame. Everything's in kind of as soon as possible.
Anybody else?
What are some other exciting themes you think would be great in movies to highlight atheist characters? For instance, like I've never seen an atheist community ever, anything ever described. Like, what are other ideas and scenes? I'm sure you brainstormed a lot before you came to a wedding.
Well, there's a lot of great, just the same way, like I mentioned, how those TV shows, House and Dead to Me. They aren't about religion or atheism. That's just kind of like on the sidelines, but it's depicted. Unfortunately, it's badly depicted. So certainly there could be a subplot line involving an atheist community group that does the wonderful volunteer work that we do. That could be just inserted into a plot line somewhere. Certainly there can be an atheist character that is likable and has their life together. I'd take that. You typically, the thing that I struggle to do is to avoid, to use a religious metaphor, preaching to the choir. You know, it'll be easy to make a movie that we would all love. It would just make fun of Christians and how stupid they are and all this, and we'd have a blast, and we'd be the only people that see it, and it wouldn't help anyone. You know, I think actually The Ledge is not a terrible movie, all told, but it got ruined by critics, and I think it's because, I mean, the depiction of Patrick Wilson as this absolutely rabid, murderous fanatic, I could see anyone who even remotely connected with religion or faith would be completely turned off by that. And I'm sure that's why it got savaged. You know, that's not the way to do it. I mean, one of the things I struggle with as an atheist is I have a lot of people in my life that are still very religious. And I know they're smart and I love them and they're good people. I have my theories of why they haven't, you know, why they still cling to faith, but, you know, we all do. But I think setting up religious people and Christians as just punching bags doesn't help. So I think stories that can show connections between atheists and religious people and it not being in constant conflict. And that's what ultimately happens in my story. Everyone basically chooses family and love over what divides them. You know, and you know, if this were, you say, why don't I go to big studios? If this were a Hollywood movie, the Charlie character would have an epiphany, would have a vision from God and turn to religion, and they'd live happily ever after, getting married in the church or something like that, you know? So that's why, you know, I choose the opposite. Melissa chooses to be with the man she loves and decides that it's not that important to her. She doesn't like kick faith to the curb, but she reprioritizes. And I think that's, you know, those increments, some people don't like incremental steps, whether it's in politics or any type of social change. They're like, we want it all, and we want it now. And, you know, what do we want? We want this. We want it now. Well, it doesn't work that way, life. You know, you carve out what little chunks you can and hope to undermine the supply line rather than storm the barricade.
All right. Thank you for speaking today. And
thank you all
support
very
us
much.
film at ourgoddamnwedding.com. All right.
Thank you.
We've got some extra snacks. We are giving away books. If you notice over here, we have a plethora of books. That's an SAT word I learned when I was Donovan's age. We have an overstock of books at the moment. So you name a price, you can take that book, any book you want. All right. For those of you online, thank you for joining us. We'll see you at the next one.
Okay.